A large black tentacle can be seen rapidly emerging from below. This tentacle proceeds to wrap around the Nautilus and begins to rapidly drag it down. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you SCP Foundation Keter-class object SCP-5007. SCP-5007, as known as Bass Strait, is the collective designation of malicious, partially humanoid entities that maintain a territory across the Bass Strait. This area of the ocean divides Tasmania and the Australian mainland, and it has been known for a string of disappearances within this range. The morphology of 5007 often varies. Universally, 5007 are composed of groups of between 2 and 9 human bodies, fused together amidst large clusters of black tentacles. These tentacles appear to vary in length between approximately 2 and 70 meters. Additionally, they appear fused to the skin where they touch directly. Of note are the stomachs of 5007, which are grossly distorted and swollen to sizes approaching 15 to 20 meters in diameter. Instances are capable of passive flight, attaining buoyancy through enormous quantities of gases produced within their stomachs. Across the surface of these organs, most specimens develop clusters of simple eyes and bioluminescent organs. 5007 are known to abduct human beings. They appear able to navigate all weather with minimal difficulty, regardless of clear or hostile skies. 5007 will move towards the shore, stalking the intended victim for a short time before lowering numerous tentacles and appendages down to the proximity of the subject to physically grab them. Once the victims are securely captured, they will return to the open water at great speed, often in excess of 320 kilometers per hour. Foundation teams successfully interviewed over 120 witnesses and soon discovered that in a vast majority of cases, the abductions were both preceded and followed by reports of lights in the sky. Likewise, there were also more concrete sightings of unidentified flying objects described as looking like balloons. The first successful visual recordings were accomplished in late 1982. It was successfully captured and transported to Site 40 for containment. It was then designated as SCP-5007-S1. After the containment of 5007-S1, it was determined that there must be at least 16 instances of 5007 as yet unaccounted for. One of the reefs located in the central Bass Strait has been proven to be the home and origin of 5007 and has been dubbed SCP-5007-A. There is a large pit in the center of 5007-A, measuring 33 meters in diameter and extending to an as yet unknown depth below the surface of the water. This pit has been dubbed SCP-5007-B, and unmanned exploration via drones has shown it to have a depth of at least 4,000 meters. Water samples collected from 5007-B contain large quantities of human DNA and an unknown biological compound. Additionally, the presence of a large entity below 5007-B has been suspected for some time. This entity has been designated SCP-5007-C. In order to determine the nature of 5007-C, D-500798 was instructed to dive to the bottom of 5007-B to observe the environment and describe significant depth readings. Below is the footage that was recorded by the cameras that mounted on the exterior of the SCPS Nautilus. All systems are good, I'm ready to submerge. SCPS Nautilus is lowered into 5007-B. Looking good, headed down, seeing a lot of strange black-yellow vines growing around the walls of the trench. A large 5007 instance comes into view, clinging to a rocky outcropping. All of its eyes follow the SCPS Nautilus, and many of the previously seen tendrils are wrapped around the specimen and inside of its orifices, particularly the mouths and noses of the individuals composing the bulk of the specimen. Is that a plane it's holding onto? 528 meters down? Another 135 5007 instances are seen at 5,391 meters deep, along with 58 overgrown plane wrecks. At this depth, natural light cannot penetrate through to illuminate what they are seeing. How am I not at the bottom? They said they didn't think it went deeper than 4,000 meters. I'm glad those things don't seem interested in me. The SCPs Nautilus passes a badly damaged human arm, which appears to have been crushed. The arm is visibly twitching. Oh my god. 5,800 meters now, seeing human remains. God, I can't wait to get back up and go home. I wouldn't mind just going back to prison at this point. It feels so wrong down here. The SCPs Nautilus passes into a brine pool, and visibility drops. Visibility is even worse down here. 6,000 meters now. I'm not seeing any fish or anything. The SCPs Nautilus enters a large mass of human remains similar to the arm he encountered previously. The remains all appear to have been crushed and drained of. However, the eyes remain intact. D500798 can be heard hyperventilating as they enter this area. Each individual floating in this area is alive and attempting to move, despite the enormous damage to their bodies. All can be seen visibly observing the SCPs Nautilus as it passes them. Oh my god, this can't be possible. How are they moving? At this point, the remains are attempting to grab the SCPs Nautilus and communicate with it. Thumping can be heard inside the submersible as they bump against it. They're saying something. Oh god, they're talking to me. What are they saying? One set of partial remains floats in front of the SCPs Nautilus, looking directly at the camera. Go back. They're saying go back. Oh no, I can't do this. I can't. I've gone down 6,700 meters. I'm not going any further. SCPs Nautilus's rate of descent is seen to slow, but passes the mass of human remains into clear water again. At this moment, D500798 can be heard performing calming breathing exercises for 19 minutes. Okay, let's keep going. Currently at 7,208 meters down. A large black tentacle can be seen rapidly emerging from below. It is approximately 8 meters in diameter and features numerous yellow eyes growing on it. This tentacle proceeds to wrap around the Nautilus and begins to rapidly drag it down. D500798 can be heard panicking and expressing distress during this process. 8 more tentacles can be seen rising towards the Nautilus. 3 of these possess large openings on their ends, which proceed to open as they approach the submersible, revealing large clusters of eyes, mouths, and human heads seemingly grafted to the tentacles. A mass of thin tentacles emerge, holding 2 victims. The tentacles proceed to press the individuals together, causing them to fuse together by unknown means. Both individuals show signs of significant distress. The tentacles proceed to further alter both victims before thin green tentacles enter the frame from above and force themselves into the victims' abdomens, which begin to swell. Suddenly, the entire frame is filled by an enormous eye ringed with tentacles, large claws, and human remains. It is estimated to be at least 650 meters in diameter. D500798 can be heard screaming for the entire duration of this portion of footage. The Nautilus is rapidly ascending, though the cameras are partially obscured by an unknown substance. D500798 can be heard babbling and vomiting. The Nautilus breaches the surface. Recovery teams successfully recover the submersible. Upon the recovery of the Nautilus, it was found that the submersible was almost entirely covered in a thick organic coating, with dozens of eyes growing from it. Upon their extrication from the Nautilus, D500798 immediately attempted to attack Foundation personnel and harmed themselves. They showed signs of anomalous physical alteration, namely the growth of numerous eyes over their upper body and arms. On-site security determined that D500798 was a threat to personnel safety and immediately terminated them with small arms fire. The lieutenant looked around her spacious room, yet she couldn't shake off her newfound sense of claustrophobia. She saw glimpses of melting faces on the wall, wailing at her. She looked at the dark corner and shuddered at the image of the abomination she encountered deep under the sea where light cannot reach. A tentacle emerging from an endless pit, dragging her down. The wall of teeth was all she could see until a brief darkness, and then another vision of hell continued to torment her. Everything was still so vivid in her mind, and in her body, something was starting to grow. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Keter-class object, SCP-835. SCP-835, also known as Expunged Data Released, appears to be a large mass of coral-like polyps. The individual polyps are larger than any known coral species. The central mass is roughly oval-shaped, with a very large polyp at each end. It is incapable of locomotion and appears to anchor itself with the large tentacles projected from its polyps, which are also used in feeding. The tentacles are extremely strong, as they have proven to be capable of damaging steel plates. Testing has shown that 835 appears to be made from basic human biological components, with the shell being formed from super dense calcium, the caps that cover the polyps coated with tooth enamel, and the tentacles appearing to be formed from mutated tongue cells. 835 excrete a large mass of semi-liquid material several times a day from its large polyps on each end. The excretion is made up of semi-digested solids and fecal material. This mass of matter contains a bacterium, 835-I5, which poses major concern for containment due to its role in the reproductive cycle of 835. Any animal or human infected with it will undergo several symptoms, most notably the formation of polyps on the skin and rapid reduction in intelligence. At the end stage, the infected subject will convert into another instance of 835. There is no treatment once infection starts, and MTF Zeta Niner found that out the hard way. A 4-person team was dispatched to investigate 835, with Lieutenant C as the team leader. Sergeants L and M served as support, and Corporal H, a rookie who joined as an observer. They were tethered to a ship on topside with cables so they wouldn't get lost underwater. At first, 835 didn't act in a hostile manner, allowing the team to make contact without incident. A standard underwater remote vehicle, or URV, was sent to collect tissue samples of the object, while Lieutenant C and the sergeants proceeded towards what they believed to be the entrance. Corporal H remained to monitor the URV's progress. While the rest were approaching the opening, Lieutenant C heard the corporal's cry for help coming from the URV's direction. They turned around and saw Corporal H's arm was entangled by a tentacle. It was dragging him towards a mouth-like opening on a polyp. Topside tried winching in Corporal H's cable to save him, but it was no match for the tentacle's sheer strength as it began to drag him towards 835's mouth. Eventually, the cable broke, but Lieutenant C managed to grab the corporal's hand. Inch by inch, she could feel that she was losing the tug-of-war. "Oh God, Lieutenant, it's eating me! I don't want to die! Help me, please!" As the mouth opened wider, the tentacle that came from within the irregular fleshy wall of teeth tightened around his arm, causing the corporal to break down and scream in pain. Lieutenant C shouted at him to calm down and told him that they would get him out of there. Command on topside hastily ordered the team to abort the mission and started to winch the rest of the team back up. Lieutenant quickly reached for her carabiner and hooked herself with Corporal H. Despite Command's repeated order, she wouldn't let go. Her cable pulled at her, and then she felt a jerk as the cable broke, allowing the tentacle to drag both the corporal and the lieutenant into its mouth. Her hands clawed against the hard wall of teeth and tried to grab hold of them, but to no avail. The tentacle dragged them past the teeth and let go of them as they arrived at 835's intestines. The muscles contracted around them, moving them down slowly, towards where they have no idea. They couldn't move, not even a single muscle. If it weren't for their hard suits, the compression would have crushed and flattened them into an unrecognizable mess. It was pitch black in the tube. They could only see each other's faces in the illuminated helmet and hear their own breathing over the gurgling noises. After about 24 hours, they were finally out of 835's intestines and had reached its stomach. There, the gurgling noises were louder, with the occasional crunching sounds. They turned on their flashlights, allowing Lieutenant C to notice their suits were giving out hissing sounds, and their gloves were degrading. The walls were lined with teeth and faces. Hundreds of human faces were wailing and screaming at them, begging to be killed. Upon seeing such abomination, Lieutenant C briefly lost her composure and started firing at the heads. Corporal H shouted at her to calm down and shoved her into an opening nearby. Through it, they arrived at another hell. The faces on the walls now were filled with acid and various rotting human parts strewn across the floor. "Come on, Lieutenant, we're almost out of here. Let's go." The corporal helped her back up on her feet as she began to faint. He spotted another opening nearby, but the flesh surrounding it had puckered up tight. They tried to pry it open, but it wouldn't budge. They figured that it was probably an exit that would take them out of 835, so they decided to wait. As they settled down, Lieutenant C noticed something about Corporal H had changed. There was a hole in the back of the corporal's leg, which was probably dissolved by the acid. She quickly put a patch on it and told him that it was nothing to worry about. But what she didn't tell him was that certain red polyps were growing all over his face, until one of the polyps burst and splattered blood all over his faceplate. He started screaming, begging Lieutenant C to kill him. Her shaking hand put the gun against his faceplate and pulled the trigger, but a single click was all she got. She had used up all her ammo on 835's faces. Suddenly, a tentacle burst out of Corporal H's face. It seized Lieutenant C immediately, but she managed to wrestle it away and push the infected corporal away from her. The tentacle wasn't as strong as the one they had encountered outside of 835. It writhed at the lieutenant as it started to melt. By then, what was once the corporal has taken on a grotesque form. The tentacle was writhing around the polyp, which had occupied a huge portion of his face. Still, he struggled to maintain his humanity, and his intelligence was declining rapidly. At last, he mustered up what's left of his sanity. He smiled and said, "I love you." Lieutenant C screamed, and then forcefully ejected out of 835 along with its digested matter. She was retrieved back to the ship, but it didn't end there. When she got back, she realized that her suit was breached. Nobody noticed until she was in her room and saw the polyps started to grow all over her. She was infected. She locked her room, and in her report, she requested command to leave her and evacuate the ship, abandon it on top of the insertion site so she can sync with it and be together with Corporal H. He would have liked it that way, she thought. One last act of intimacy, why not? And went to sleep before she would become another instance of 835, a fate worse than death. E1261 sat in her containment cell and stared at her nutrition dispenser unit. The more she thought about it, the more she wanted her dead. And that's what she decided. "Hey, guards, the dispenser's broken again. Come fix your junk, will ya?" All right, pipe down. Come here, let's put on your favorite things, a sensory deprivation device, and this here restraints. There we go, all snug and comfy. Just when the guards turned around, she broke free of her restraints and knocked them unconscious. She looked around and breathed a sigh of relief. Good, no one saw or heard a single thing. She stealthed her way to the hangar and hijacked a helicopter to Site 74, the location of her target, Dr. Madison Craggs. "Hello, Craggs. Took you 6 weeks to find me. Any old CI could have done it in 2. Kept you waiting, huh? But that's irrelevant. No one leaves the Chaos Insurgency. Hello, everybody. I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-3033. SCP-3033, also known as a human weapon, refers to 2 anomalies. SCP-3033-1 refers to individual instances of Chaos Insurgency mic units. These instances are humans who have received invasive cranial implants that grant rudimentary control of nerve impulses, as well as overriding biological limits. The implants on 3033-1 instances counteract pain receptors, override standard nervous signals, and interfere with the endocrine system to induce a variety of hormonal responses when activated. As a result, instances can withstand significant amounts of physical trauma before expiring and are unaffected by morale shocks. However, they lack fine motor control, training, and the ability to work cohesively. On the other hand, SCP-3033-2 refers to the handlers of SCP-3033-1 units. 3033-2 instances are previously non-anomalous humans who have been augmented with brain-computer interfaces in order to control 3033-1 instances. E1261, an instance of 3033-1, was housed in an automated containment unit. So tell me, what was it like being under the influence of a controller? I have movement, but not mine. It feels alien. Now that I think about it, it was more like a total lack of control over everything, like watching a videotape of someone else's life, complete with sounds, smells, tastes, touches. I was a passenger in my own head while someone else was driving. Can you elaborate further? I can't. I physically can't. It reminds me too much of them. Them? The people I killed. E1261 then refused to communicate with Foundation staff for the next 16 days. Site 74. A nearby cottage was provided to Dr. Craggs, designated as POI 7701. She was placed under house arrest as per the terms of extraction. She heard the door opening with a heavy creak, and in came Dr. Carlson. "Good day, Dr. Craggs." Dr. Carlson nodded and sat down as he activated the recorder. "So I told you about my work for this Chaos Insurgency mind control project. The controller and the controllee, the driver and the car, the general and the soldier, Get on with it, please. Impatient, are we? Well, I've told you everything there is about the project. Oh, I should totally tell you about the operations they took on, especially this one. Some guy named Kalasov?" Suddenly, she fell silent. "Dr. Craggs, are you all right?" "Oh, what?" No. It jogged up some unpleasant memories. It was personal, to say the least. Anyway, Kalasov, former Soviet interrogations guy. Used to work with him for a while. Man's a piece of work. Kept count of how many bones he broke. I think it was somewhere in the thousands. And apparently, a guy from our side defected to his side, and they wanted him dead. I was tasked to oversee a team of Blue Falcon agents in an operation. And for this one, I secretly put in a bunch of extra bells and whistles in these poor sods' heads. Near immortal physicality and ruthless judgment. We armed them with all kinds of weapons, knives, assault rifles, you name it, and sent them on their merry way. It was a measly team of 4 soldiers, against an army of maybe 75 security personnel and 100 others. Each and every one of them died a grisly death. My God! I went there after the action and it was absolutely beautiful. My subjects waiting around for orders, all bloodied and not a sign of weariness. The halls, corridors, each and every part of the interior was decorated with blood and body bits. How could I not be proud of my work, being in front of such marvelous sight? I took some photos. Want to see them? No, thank you. What about Kalasov? Dr. Craggs fell silent again. A gloomy expression took over her sunny disposition. He's dead. Okay then. This concludes today's session. Dr. Carlson stopped the recording and got up. Before he exited the door, he asked, "Dr. Craggs, mind if I ask what Kalasov did to you? Frankly speaking, you don't seem like the type of person who can be bothered by anything. He surely must have done you grievous harm." "That jerk keyed my car. It was a vintage Italian sports car. You won't believe how much that scratch ruined the entire look of it. I tried everything, but it just couldn't be buffed out. So I specially inserted specific commands to murder that decrepit old bastard. And it was carried out beautifully. Seeing his own prized custom-made walking cane running through his body like a kebab, oh, so beautiful, brought a tear to my eye. But nothing can replace my car. That was forever ruined." Days later, E1261 expressed interest in talking about her time with the Chaos Insurgency again. "We were sent to annihilate a facility with a special command inserted to exterminate some old guy. Everything was hazy. I get flashes of the action, but not the full picture. But this old man, I see his face whenever I blink. It was a sad, panicked face. He was wearing a black suit like he'd just attended a funeral. I killed everyone, then rushed at him. He hit me over and over again, but my body didn't let go. His face turned an ungodly shade of purple. Then, I blacked out. Next thing I remember, we were done. We were badly wounded, arms missing, blood everywhere. Then Dr. Craggs arrived. 'Show me your special assignment,' she said. I didn't remember what my assignment was, but my body knew. I led her to a room. And then it all came back to me when I saw the old man hanging upright in the middle of the room, with an ornate cane impaling him through the mouth, followed by flashes of screams and crunching noises. At some point, something snapped in my head. Chip burned out, and for the first time, I had control of my mind and body. It was then I'd found my purpose. And what would that be? No one leaves the Chaos Insurgency, you say. E-1261 lunged at her, but stopped just short of contact and froze in place. You thought you could use a weapon of my own creation to cut off this loose end, like some kind of absurd poetic justice? Huh, that's actually pretty funny. Kinda. E-1261 got back up and charged at Dr. Craggs as she turned to pour herself a drink, and again, she was stopped. Oh, you almost got me there. Quite the resilient one, aren't you? I knew this would happen. That's why I'd implanted a subdermal failsafe to prevent you people from killing me. But, seeing how far you've come to get me, I think it's time to improve and upgrade your chip. Dr. Craggs giggled and began digging through her drawer, retrieving a field surgical kit. E-1261 could only watch in horror as tears rolled down her cheeks. Hey, Dr. Carlson, you watching this? Get a load of this live demonstration as I'm about to break down my own creation. She then began a live standing vivisection of E-1261. Her screams of pain and horror echoed through the cottage. Hush, you! It's hard to cut cleanly when you're screaming bloody murder. What shall I do with your controller? Ah, yes, I have an idea. Let's make sure you remember his face now. Don't want to lose memory of your target, do we now? After the incident, Dr. Craggs was relocated to another undisclosed location. E-1261's handler was later found dead with a crushed windpipe.